Oh my goodness. Seriously, I have to just do it. It's like I can tell myself I don't have to think about things that don't matter.
I was designed to do those things. How the hell does this guy know this about me?
It's impossible to not see.
When Dan read for my sister, she was like, he's psychic. She's like, how does he know that?
Yes.
She's like, it's human design, guys. Like, it's just a testimony of how legit it is.
Seriously, Danny was like FBI or CIA. He's like, how the hell does this guy know this about me?
Having my chart read, there were just thing after thing after thing that I was just like, wow, that's me.
This man is reading me and I've never met him before.
I was in the midst of one of the biggest emotional waves I've ever been in my life, and he saved my life.
It seems like everybody has the same reaction. It's that aha moment, and they want to find out more. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Human Design Advantage podcast, our Wednesday night series. My name is Jen, and decoding the matrix for us is Danny Guru.
Jennifer, it's so good to see you.
It's
Glad
good
to be doing one of these shows.
Yes, and we're back at our Wednesday night. I think it's been like a 2-week break, but
something like that.
Yep. But we got something. Yeah, it was worth it. So had a great time in Roswell. And we're coming back with a bang, man. We're going to be doing Ron DeSantis versus Donald Trump.
Yep.
Comparing
it's quite a matchup on these two. I mean, it is really something. So I understand why they go at it. Their charts, if people were to be brother and sister based on certain similarities in their charts, these guys would be siblings. Yeah. And so what do brothers do? They beat up on each other. Sometimes and stuff. And so that's what it would sort of look like. But these two creatures, I got a keynote out of their charts. I can't do it without their charts. There's just too much going on.
Well, before you dive into all of that, you guys know the drill. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow the show. Share this out. And yeah, let me go ahead and get...
Before you pull it up, Jen, let me announce just how people book for booking sessions. And I'm sorry about that. So
go ahead. So
for booking sessions, please book your session. Couples, individuals, for your children. I specialize in couples, marriages, partnerships, anything that's going on. I specialize in all of it. When you book your session, you'll see there's a price tag, $250. It's worth it. But down below that, there's a spot to make a donation in case you can't afford it. Don't go without. Go to the donations tab. There are lesser amounts that you can choose if that's honestly all you can afford. Just we're on the honor system with that. So book your session. Don't wait. Links are down below.
Yep. And they're scrolling. You can find them in the description, guys, and you can also find them scrolling down below and on our website, thehumandesignadvantage.com. And before I pull up their chart, do we want to tell everybody, like both Trump and DeSantis, I believe, has been in the headlines recently?
They've been in the headlines all over the place. Supposedly, Donald Trump was supposed to be arrested today by New York. And there's this by the way, in the news, so attorney Dershowitz, I don't know if you guys know, I think it's Alan Dershowitz, famous New York attorney. He's been around forever and very, very blue Democratic guy. And he came out in total defense of why are they doing this? This is specialized prosecution targeted at a political enemy. Nobody does this. Statute of limitations are over. He said it was an abomination what they're actually trying to get the person on. And it's actually not a crime what was done. There's nothing that's a crime. Some of it's in poor taste, but it's not a crime. Never mind some of it. The whole thing's in poor taste.
Not like they're not all guilty of poor taste.
Right. But I mean, it's all regarding Stormy Daniels, who was a porn star, and an agreement signed between the two, which paid money on one end and on the other end agreed to some silence. It's called a do not disclose agreement when you go and work for the government. But suddenly in this case, it's somehow illegal. It's not. And Alan Dershowitz came on. He blasted it. He's like, I'm no fan of Donald Trump, but I am a fan of our legal system. It's being weaponized. So Donald's all over the place. They're still going to indict him most likely. And then it'll just be another thing that probably won't stick. Probably. I don't know. I'm not there, but I'm assuming it's not going to stick as nothing else has stuck so far. And then Ron DeSantis is all over the news because just yesterday and just over the past 2 days, he has announced a cease on any central bank digital currency in the state of Florida. And he can't announce it. He needs the legislature. So he's called upon the legislature. But I notice he never gives these 30, 40-minute press briefings where he brings everyone on until he knows that the legislature has already spoken to the legislature. So apparently they're going to put this thing together, and he's going to sign it into law, whereby no CBDCs, no digital currency, no ability to he's already signed into law, no ability to mandate vaccines, to mandate what you can do, to mandate where you can go, to mandate closure of freedom, to mandate school closure. So all that he already did. And for that, everyone's calling him a fascist. Yet Florida is the boomingest state and the economy. People are moving there. And by the way, political leaders from both parties, they all vacation in Florida. So if there's something wrong with it, that's sheer hypocrisy. You can see pictures of almost every one of them in Florida at some point in time over the past few years. And just recently, so he's had a press release, and I watched the whole thing, and he's like, we're going to outlaw the use of it, and we're going to outlaw the ability for it to be used. We're going to outlaw the ability for foreign governments to like bring it in and use it as an exchange. You want to exchange with Florida and you have a CBDC, go someplace else, turn it into cash, then come back. So he's basically, Florida is going to be a legislated stronghold that will say no to the Fed tokens, man, which we don't want. I don't want them. It's programmable money, literally. So these guys are all over the news, and then they're sort of firing at each other back and forth, but mostly not back and forth. Ron DeSantis has a thing or two to say in response. Donald is more like throwing shots across the bow to make sure Ron DeSantis doesn't run for president, or basically letting him know, please don't muddy the waters, because a bunch of other people are going to come in and try and run against Donald Trump.
Yeah.
People assume will be the forerunner in all of this, but there's tension between the two. At the same time, there's greatness between the two. At the same time, these two things aren't going to work themselves out. And anyway, we're going to find out anytime soon, I wouldn't say.
Oh, I feel like it's going to get really interesting.
It's going to get wicked, wicked, wicked interesting. And just to be clear, I have a political bias. One of these two men I would far prefer. You can go up and throw up the charts. I would far prefer, if I had my choice, one of these two men to be our next president rather than what we currently have. So just so you know, I have political bias on that. And that's full disclosure. So
my political bias is that we get rid of all of these people that are on the main stage, and let's just get together as a people.
Let me correct.
And actually pick the people, because I don't. After what we've seen the past couple of years, you cannot tell me that we're going to be going into another election that's not rigged. It's been rigged since the beginning.
It's been rigged heavily lately because the hands have been forced in order to keep the players in power that the large power players on the planet want. And to clear up my bias, you're right, Jen. I'm 100% far more biased towards what you said. The whole thing should be literally bankrupted and torn down, so we don't need a quote corporate president of United States Inc. Correct. But we get back to a de jure government. So my whole vote would be none of the above in that respect, and get back to a de jure situation whereby either any one of the above could go ahead and run again in a de jure situation. Different story. De jure American state national republic form of government, which is what we've had all along. That's been it's been messed with way too much. It's taking our freedom away. It's no good. And so that takes our creativity away all over the place. And I hear someone commented on our Instagram page saying which fascist is worse or something like that. And to that person, I would say, based on what? Fascism based on what? And define fascism in your mind. And then there's a conversation to be had. So I don't find either of these men an actual fascist. They're keeping corporations and government somewhat separate. as it relates to what they can do to thwart the will of the people. Governments and corporations will always come together in certain ways because they have to cooperate, but they don't need to thwart the will of the free men and women of the Republic of the States of the United States of America.
It will be interesting to see. We've got Pluto moving into Aquarius, and I believe the last time that happened was in 1776. So we know it.
Crap. Are you serious?
So we will see what happens. I'm just a firm believer that all of it needs to just go.
The moment of truth. We'll look at that. So
dive right into today's show.
Yes. I have to pull up one gate here on my book. Hang on a second. 33. And what is that? So Donald Trump's Pluto. 33, line 3. It's about spirit. The spirit to know what to remember when. And this is a collective process. So this is his truth must be shared. You wonder what drives Donald Trump? He's driven. Now he's got this big ego defined in him, right? It goes straight to the throat. Manifesting generator, super busy. He's a 1-3 profile, which means he's self-concerned first. All the lower profiles, 2/3 of the planet is a lower profile. All lower profiles, self-concerned first. And he's got a voice that begins with I. And he's wicked logical about his I. Because he's got this logical channel going from the ajna to the throat. That's why he shows up with so many details. All of this stuff filters through his Pluto and his truth. The reason I'm bringing it up is because it's there twice. It's there twice in the exact same line, 33.3 and 33.3. Right. So he was born in a pretty special time. Gate 30. So it's been hard on him because this is the gate of privacy and retreat. So Donald constantly, in his truth, he must retreat. And this is the gate of remembrance. It's about, and it's in the throat. So it's going to ultimately express the collective experience of what the remembrance needs to be. That doesn't speak to being a truth teller or not per se, right. Because you could collectively express everything that isn't what we need to hear. And you could be, Klaus Schwab or Bill Gates, and suddenly nothing is collectively expressed right. You can have that gate and be a liar. At everything. What I watch in Donald Trump is an opportunistic liar that really only lies, politically speaking, once in a while as it relates to something that he just feels like he can't answer. But the rest of the time, he's eager to basically unload himself of which is essentially true, especially when it's bad news. When it's hard.
But is he lying? He's really good at being as honest as he can in his sayings without saying what.
Without, yeah. So most of his, everyone lies as it relates to politicians. Most of his lying is in the form of omission.
Right.
Would be in the form. I'm not saying that. You know what I mean? He'll just be part of the thing he doesn't say. And in his case, because he's so boisterous, that gate 26 coming off of his ego, he's driven by that gate 26. Driven because it's in his moon. It's in his personality moon, and it's in a 5th line. So he's driven to basically universalize his ego power. So if you want to know what makes Donald bluster, he's helpless in blustering his ego power out into the world, because look, he's trying to basically teach and gather everyone together. That's what this channel 2135 does. It gathers people together for the sake of the kingdom, the tribe, for the sake of a continuity that teaches everybody a similar way, right? The tribe has to have its uniformity of its generalized uniformity, right? We wear these colors. We live here in this tribe. We eat from our fields that we make. You know what I'm saying? These are our customs. This is what we teach. And a good ruler will always be teaching all of these things and informing and letting know. And then as the tribe succeeds, as there is success, the ruler becomes beloved. As the tribe withers, the ruler becomes, disliked and or ousted.
A heretic.
And potentially a heretic, or thrown out, or overthrown, whatever it is. But Donald Trump has been attempting to basically teach everybody that there is a very broken system out there. And he has trumpeted that. He has trumpeted that from the mountaintops to great.
Repeatedly, consistently, and it's always the same.
Yep.
What he's saying.
Yep. And so he's quick at all of that. So the 1-3 profile guarantees he's going to investigate lots of stuff. Guaranteed he's going to be a bull in a china shop if he's allowed to be himself, and tear down foundations that don't work and then rebuild new ones, and tear down ones that don't work and rebuild new ones. That's the 1-3. That's part of their way in this life. And that at times he's going to be an anarchist. And with all that rightness at the top, in dependent variables, the top two variables, the brain and the mind, with those two things facing right, the safest bet for him is to essentially either omit or tell what's true. You know, it's just the easiest way to go about stuff for him. Sorry, I have an itchy nose. Because he's that rightness, it's hard to remember what you did and didn't do. You're best when you're just letting stuff be pulled from you. Well, Donald went into the office and he let stuff be pulled from him. And again, driven by this ego authority of his, out of not authority, but this ego power out of gate 26, he's driven to basically universalize his ego strength. And that's what we hear. And then gate 33, again, that truth, the spirit, it always retreat into a victory. Spirit, gate 33, privacy, active withdrawal and transformation of a weak position into a strength. That's what Donald Trump's truth is. His body is always working on withdrawing and taking a weak position and turning it into a strength. Now, he's lived that out. He has lived that out over and over again. Whether you like him or hate him, it doesn't matter. He's lived it out. And 33 is again in a third line. So it totally resonates with his unconscious. I mean, so his unconscious is constantly doing this, an attitude that turns retreat into victory. The responsible and principled retreat based on preservation, but with a determination to persevere. Privacy as a path to success. So basically he does that. He goes back to Mar-a-Lago, he goes, he ducks out. He gets to he goes golfing. Primarily his retreat is he goes golfing. And then finally the press reporters and all the stuff, and he comes out and you see it on his emotional face, by the way. He shows emotions. Yeah, he doesn't hide these things. And you see it on him, and he can't stand what he's hearing and blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, but he shows right up and he turns difficult positions into success. So if you want a president that turns difficult things into success, vote for Donald Trump. Period. With this single definition, right? Single definition means I can start anywhere where there's a channel and I can draw a line all the way through all the channels without ever picking my pen up to hop over a missing gate. That means this person digests information quickly. Manifesting generator digests information quickly. A generator, period, meaning he has sustainment as a part of what's in his way. So he will sustain at right, the staying power. The life force is always on. You know, generators are, when they get onto something, that's it. You just can't put them to sleep. And he's a third line, which is keynoted. His creativity is keynoted as sustainment. The investigator who creates a sustaining way and is designed to tear stuff down. He's got a sharp intuition. He's emotional twice. He's in a wave. He's got this logical channel between the ajna and the throat that always has all the details. When I say always, there's loads of details. And in case anyone's ever been relatively impressed with the fact that Donald Trump is always spitting out tons of details, that's his rightness in those arrows coming through the unconsciousness of both 11 and 17, pouring out through the one outlet it has. This is a great combination. So look in his ajna, he's got 11. Now it's there twice. It's a striped line, right? So yes, he's conscious that he's got an idea. I've got an idea. Donald Trump says I got an idea. He's got ideas. He's conscious, but half of it's unconscious. That part which is unconscious, along with that gate 17, which is unconscious, this gate of opinions, to opine, to have something that is usually put together in some logical fashion. That's what's coming out of 17. It's from the brain system, the mind. So it's his brain working away at concepts. And so you take ideas which need no which are concepts onto themselves, and opinions, which are concepts based in details. You put those two things together, and the only outlet for the ajna is gate 62. You see that? That's the only way for any of the stuff, including the pressure from the open head center. The only outlet for
completely open head.
Look at it like wiring. If this were wiring, the electrical pulse would go through gate 62 before it went into the rest of the body graph. And that's a great way to put it. Gate 62 is the gate of details. He's consciously aware of these details. So his ego authority that says, I am, and his 1-3 profile that says, I am the boss, and all the details that have this rightness being drawn from. So as a generator, in response to his environment over and over again, he's pounding through the details, building up a way to be able to lead. This 4 years off for him is probably the best thing that ever happened to him. 4 on, 4 off, 4 on again. We will have an amazing president, most likely. My only fear about Donald is ability to keep a cabinet together and people from leaking. So, yep, because
I feel like there's going to be some big things that are going to be coming.
Yep, he's got a love of the people. He's got a love of the people because this emotional definition he has, the 59-6 is a powerful Wa channel. It organizes entire institutions. 2145, another powerful, the most powerful Wa. It's the voice of the Wa. The Wa is just in a large organization. When you bring them, all those auras together, they create essentially what's a transauric thing, a being, a greater aura greater than itself, like a crowd. But when it's in an organization, it needs controls, it needs certain aspects. And so he's got that channel, 2 powerful organizational channels, and he's got the channel 1762, which is the design of an organizational being. This man is designed for organizations. However, his right angle profile, that 1-3, is self-concerned first. It's supposed to be that way. It draws its strength there. His right-facing arrows mean he's not super strategic with all of that until he's in response. So as long as he allows himself to be in response, out come all the details to bring the authority out, to give the message, and to sustain and be a generator and pound right through the whole thing. And then he's got this emotional crash wave that says, when I'm high on my wave, I'm intoxicating and you can't help it. And you can't even resist me half the time. And when I'm low on my wave between that and my 59-6, I'll cut your head off. So Donald Trump,
that slicer.
Yeah, he has a retributionary way about him to his harshest of enemies. So people that he has a thing for, I wouldn't want to be on the wrong side of that, having him shoot things at me. Having said that, as a president, that doesn't make me the happiest in certain ways, because that just means there's moments in which that could be abused. So I don't know. I'll know if he's any good if he starts talking about bringing Julian Assange home and pardoning anything that there might be. Then I'll know he's truly a man for the people. And what does he always call? Do you know what he calls Ron DeSantis? This was sort of how it all started. He nicknamed Ron DeSantis. He nicknamed him Ron DeSanctimonious.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so when I saw that, and I was like, Donald, dude, wrong target. Just leave it alone. I don't know. There's some personal stuff between those two for whatever reason. That's okay. It's allowed, dude. That doesn't stop either candidate from, and one's not even a candidate yet, but it doesn't stop either person from being a great president. It's just, and by the way, one more thing about Donald Trump, he's not going to rush us into anything. He's got gate 12 in his body graph twice. Caution in the face of the temptation to do a thing. So, and the only place he refused his caution was sexually speaking when he was a younger man and was getting it up all the time and doing whatever he did. As an older man, I don't worry about that too much. I'm not worried about him chasing girls around anymore, which is good. But everything else, his businesses, his things, caution. So when something was too much, he understands caution. And all of his things that are important in this body graph are connected in one single definition to centers that are defined, meaning they're always on and working. Donald Trump is a very strong self-contained unit. And if his love inside of his own 9-centered self is right, we got ourselves a good man. Essentially, we have ourselves a good man. I don't know what he's like in person. I'm just saying, as a president, we have ourselves a good man, and we're lucky. We're lucky to have him, as long as he stays awake to his nature. So let's check out Ron DeSanctimonious. Who's Ron DeSantis? Ron DeSantis doesn't deserve the name of Ron DeSanctimonious. That's a shot across the bow from a pissed off, emotional, ego-driven powerhouse called Donald Trump that his rightness can't help but to blurt stuff out. They wanted to take that Twitter handle away from Donald and tell him to stop tweeting because his rightness is just like, I just thought it, I'm typing it. Jennifer, remind you of somebody? Sometimes I just say it because I'm thinking it.
Yes.
And I don't care. Then I just like, no, let's say it. Let's go do it.
Yes.
But that's correct for him.
Mm-hmm.
Ron, by contrast, his arrows are pointing to the left on the personality side, anyways. That gives Ron DeSantis a strategic advantage in certain ways as it relates to what will he strategically do. He's going to need that strategic advantage if he decides to run, because he hasn't run. He hasn't thrown his hat in the ring. If he does decide to run, he will need every bit of that strategic advantage to overcome what are an amazing amount of details that Donald Trump has gathered. But he's got a strategic advantage because he has implemented every cool patriotic thing that is truly American. He's not everyone by any stretch, but he's implemented many of them in the state of Florida. That's why people call it the free state of Florida. You know,
Right.
You can own a gun in Florida. It's your constitutional right. You're supposed to. You can speak freely in Florida. He fired Ron DeSantis, got in and fired a George Soros backed DA. He went in and he said, "You're a George Soros backed DA, and I don't like the decisions coming out of here because the guy was letting too many people off." They pulled up his track record.
Yeah.
And he didn't just say it. They published a track record because Ron DeSantis is a show me guy. He's always show me. So he shows.
Well, he's his incarnation cross of informing. He's informing.
He is a perfect informer. I would trust this man as my president in a New York second. And so what he ends up doing with this strategic nature of his is he ends up informing with it. And as he's informing people and doing what he does, suddenly he starts to realize he's a design to realize. That's what the informing is. The informing is what is it he realizes. And he's got another similar, Donald Trump and he both have a similarity. They're both a single definition, emotional manifesting generator. That's one thing that they have.
Yes, they're both the same on that.
Yes.
Both emotional authority. Both single definition.
They're both single definition. You can draw a straight line from through all of his definition. This man, and another similarity, their incarnation cross is fully within their defined centers. When you have gates of your incarnation cross in open centers, it's just a different way. You need to read it differently.
Okay.
And so these two men read the same way in that way. And that's kind of I find that a cool virtue. And that which defines their throat is sort of on the same side of the body graph. So they're both relatively experiential. But look at his sun and earth, this 47.5 and this 22.5. Oh, by the way, they have something else in common. They both have a 12.2 in their unconscious, a 12 and 11 in their unconscious. These two men are...
wow.
Yeah, excuse me. They both have a 12 and 11 in the first line. These two men are literally half an incarnation cross apart, away from each other. See that 12-1 there?
Yeah.
And the 12-1 and
Right
11-1?
here.
Yep.
And
So
then
yep.
right here.
Over on the left. 12.
Oh,
1.
yeah, sorry.
Yep. And so all of this is in a defined center. So these guys match up evenly. However, Ron DeSantis's caution is unconscious. And that's why he doesn't bluster as much. He's got an open ego. He's got nothing to prove.
Right.
Another reason.
Yeah, I was going to say that he's got that open ego.
So another reason he doesn't need to bluster as much. He really doesn't. And that open ego, you know what happens? As soon as it's in connection with someone else, it defines it. And what's his love language? His love to work. And he's got 44 and 40. And that's both the love languages of both of those are love to bring in good resources that I love to work with. May I work for you guys? Yes, Ron, you may work for me. He's a 5-1, so he's transpersonal. So a third of the planet is transpersonal, approximately. That means they're always living out the karma that's in the world. That we want these guys. They're the karma surfers. We need them. Please surf. How's the karma going? Yeah, you're a karma surfer. How's the karma out there, Jen? I wouldn't know. I'm a self-concerned right-angle profile, waiting to bump into it or discover it or get called. And you're
I have so much to say to that one.
You want to say something?
Exhausting.
Right, exactly.
Well, I think the karma surfers are waiting for everybody else to really wake up, because we're surfing. The waves aren't as big as they were, but
right. I totally get it.
Calm down that surf.
So here's Ron's shtick. An advantage Ron has over Donald Trump. Donald Trump has all those details, right? They show up in a creative moment because of his rightness. So if you call on Donald, that creative 9-centered right, doesn't matter who you are. You could be Xi Jinping. You could be, it doesn't matter who you are. If you have rightness in your brain and you get called upon in a moment, out can come brilliance, because you're being called from the totality in a way. Rightness is the totality. Leftness calls upon it. That's how this yin and yang works. It's a perfect symbiotic relationship. We need it. If there was no strategicness like Ron DeSantis, we wouldn't strategically get anywhere. If there was no rightness, the strategic wouldn't have anything to strategically get anywhere with. So this 47.5, fifth line general, guess what? It's got the actual keynote of what one of the aspects is of the fifth line that we use when profiling. 47 is the gate of oppression. And this is about coming to a realization. So in his incarnation cross, he's got a realizations that are pouring through. And that would be, so in a debate with each other, Trump will respond with a bunch of details, and that ego power will bluster, right? And then Donald Trump, that is. And then Ron DeSantis, his rightness, which is on the brain side, on the design side, it's there. They both have an equal amount of rightness, 2 left, 2 right. So again, a lot's going on with these two. That has a great deal of similarity. His rightness would then come to realization. His son drives him to be the realizer. He is constantly realizing stuff. Put this man in an office and give him some time, and he will suddenly realize what needs to happen. His incarnation cross is half that of rulership, just like Donald Trump's. Half of Donald Trump's incarnation cross is, Donald Trump is all of Eden, but half of Ron DeSantis's is about rulership. And it's the graceful side of rulership, not the bully side of rulership. So he's designed to gracefully lead. And every time you hear this man talk and do a thing, he gracefully walks in, he gracefully walks out. He literally gracefully handles the situation. He deals with his people gracefully. There's not a single leak out of that place. Florida does not leak like a sieve. That is one thing he'll be able to point out about Donald Trump's last administration. It leaked a lot. There was a lot of stuff leaked out of there. That's why he had to keep firing people. And that's because everyone hates him. You know what I mean? Not everyone, but they all want to get one over and do something. Ron would come in with a team that would have a lot more to say about all of that. What leaks and what doesn't leak. He would come in with a pretty airtight team, would be my guess, although we can't guarantee that, because Washington entrenches people in that White House. They entrench them.
I don't know, man. We're watching a movie. So what happened to Trump in his presidency? I don't feel really you can't compare it to the things.
What it'll be next time.
It was probably a sting. I mean, he's very smart. I think it was all staged. They knew what was going on. So they had to have certain leaks like that to know who has been leaking the whole time.
Right.
So I still keep that in the forefront. No,
you're right. He's a 1-3. By the way, he's lived out his incarnation cross fully, the right angle cross of Eden, coming out of the garden, going through the difficult, the muck and the mud to come to where your fruitful survival is. So as a 1-3 profile, it's not even fair to count the first presidency. in a debate. And so if I were the moderator of a debate and someone starts hammering on the first presidency too hard, I would be like, excuse me, that's foul. You can't really hammer on it. He's a 1-3 profile. He's designed to have that. So what did he learn from it? Because he's designed to learn foundations, gather people together, and be an anarchist and tear down things that don't work. Now he's done that. So he now has.
He was in the perfect spot to be there.
Yep.
Prism Planet is commenting, and they said it too, that he was probably the only one that could be put in that position to disrupt the system the way that he did. And we needed it. And before he even got into the White House, it became a witch hunt. And it still is a witch hunt, which tells me, what do they not want that man to do? Because again, like
they don't want that man to liberate the republic back into a republic form of government, which we were guaranteed as a constitutional republic. Right now, we have an authoritarian democracy that governs all of the lands. That democracy is only supposed to govern our international dealings and the way the country organizes as it relates to itself in the world. Not the land and soil where men and women walk around and do stuff and interact between themselves. That's supposed to be free, unencumbered business. And that's how we were for the first 100 years of this country until that 14th Amendment came along. Now, neither one of these cats are letting on to that whole 14th Amendment thing. I'm certain they both know about it. However, Ron DeSantis still flies a captured flag behind him. I find that interesting with the gold tassel and everything. I might be missing something. So I don't see the top. I can't see the pediment that's on top, but the crown. But
no, most likely it's a corporate flag, gold tassel. That's why, I know that,
But he could be making a statement because his state flag is not fringed. So, hi, the free state of Florida is here talking to the captured corporate flag of the United States Corporation, which is a corporation and it has a board that we do not know, private. We do not know the owners of the United States Corporation.
No.
Please let that sink in. It's a corporation, and we don't fully know who the ownership is. Mm-hmm. Someone go find it. Prove me wrong.
You see how well that business has been running, guys.
Well, for as far as they're concerned, it's been running great. Those guys made piles of money off it. But
that's because we are the
chattel.
We're the product.
Yep. So Ron's caution is his gate 12 caution is part of a definition. So it's steady and reliable. And it's connected to the grace gate 22. And so when I get to 22.5 and 47.5, let's find out where this man's sun and earth are both driving and grounding him to be. 47, oppression, realization. It starts as a restrictive and adverse state as a result of this internal force or external strength, meaning stuff pounding in upon it, or both. So it's an oppressive mental state that allows for conceptualization. We need that, by the way. We need that. We don't let that sound like a bad thing. And so what's gate 47 always doing for us? It's always coming up with a new realization. And the older a person is and the more mature they've become, the quicker does the realization come through over and over again. We need people to realize the next thing. So in a debate, he would be realizing what details Donald Trump was doing, and Donald Trump would be detailing to death with strong opinions and ideas, whatever it is Ron is realizing. And these two would, if they went at it in a debate that was like head to head and they were actually adversarial with each other, it would be a powerhouse. It would be a powerhouse. And the only thing that I could say was Ron DeSantis would likely speak a little bit less as it relates to interrupting.
Well, if it comes to that, guys, we will make sure that we definitely pay attention to that, because it'd be interesting to see what happens on a human design level.
Absolutely. So does Ron DeSantis's open ego or open head or open root get to him? I guarantee you it does. But he surrounds himself.
He's got double pressure coming in.
Double pressure coming in, just like Donald does. They both got that. They both have an open spleen. Again, the similarities are just striking. Except he's got the same channel 59.6 from the sacral over to the solar plex center.
That's the slicer?
That's what I call the slicer. because it's in an emotional wave. When again, another design, the design of a mating, the design of bonding and bringing bonds. And it's the design of intimacy. So that's why these people are loved by both camps, are loved by their people. Donald Trump's people love him. You realize that, right? Ron
Yes, I
DeSantis'
do.
people, they love him. They love him. That's what this channel is designed to do when the person is basically living out their design. However, since he's a fifth lines are guaranteed to be more practical. That 1-3 doesn't show up as super practical sometimes, right? Even though it's practical to have a 1-3 in a swamp that needs draining. That's a practical thing to do, period. So that aside, he's practical, and he's forced to be, because that fifth line suddenly gets paranoid over time, and it starts to realize, I'm only sticking my neck out when it's practical and I know I can be the right general at the right time, and then I'm sticking my neck out. And he's got the emotional authority to do it. He's got the channel 2946, which is the channel of discovery. He's got everything it takes to discover what is that all about. It leads into the love of himself and his body and his universal love of all things, which are in his nodes. I trust this man as a leader in part because his design nodes guarantee he's universalizing the love of all things into his decision making, and the love of himself amongst the love of all things into his decision making. I would like to see that in the presidency, just so you know. And it's in a fifth line, so it's totally resonating with his personality. 47, it's called the Saint. This position is typically significant, and there is no planet in detriment. There's only an exaltation to this. The gift in times of oppression, too much stuff coming in, right? Like the press. Yeah. The press is trying to oppress him. The gift in times of oppression to maintain without hypocrisy a harmonic relationship with one's oppressor while providing aid and comfort basically to the oppressed, while still helping it, basically floating between both worlds, to provide aid and comfort as what this incarnation cross of rulership, he's going into the incarnation cross of rulership. Excuse me, he's coming out of it. He's going into the cross of Eden where Donald is, coming out of the cross of rulership. So as he does.
Where's Dominion? Dominion's after
this. So
after informing?
Yeah, after forming would come the cross of rulership. After the cross of rulership, we would then move into dominion. I think it goes that way. Unless dominion might be in between the two, but it's right there. It's the next one in line. Remember, we do a right angle, and the right angle moves to a left angle, and then the left angle moves back to a right angle, just as we sew through the wheel. So there's no detriment to that. Basically, it's this gift, realization at its most exalted. I want Ron DeSantis's realizations. Look at how many fifth lines this man has in his body graph. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This man is a general.
Oh, yeah. He's got a lot of fives.
10 of them. That's a big number. You only see 10 and 11 once in a blue moon. 9, 10, and 11 of the same gate in your body, but that's a lot of activation. So he's guaranteed to act out that of the general. He's guaranteed to act that of the practicality and to basically always look good and try not to step in it. And he doesn't even swear much, which is good because Donald doesn't either. So this saint is as it relates to rulership. He acts out as a saint as it relates to rulership. Forms of it. Acceptance of the weight of that abstract process within rulership and the grace that naturally follows. And by the way, it's rare when an incarnation cross references its next gate, gate 22, the gate of grace. Openness. It's a quality of behavior that's suited for handling trivial and mundane situations. Suited for it. It's perfect. And it's its openness and grace to listen as an individual to become something of consequence. He's got the channel of an individual social being. As soon as he's in the mood, he's individually social, period. And it's emotional. You have that 1222 channel.
Yes, I do.
Yes. And this channel,
and I have to be in the mood.
yes, and this channel of openness, or not, is a design of being a person of consequence quickly. It's a mutative channel. It's designed to guarantee to listen and then be strikingly mutative, because gate 12 is not just caution. Once gate 12 is done being cautious, gate 12 is one of the most mutative gates we have as it relates to affecting others, because it goes straight to the throat and it's in a manifesting channel. It's designed to do that. All it does is stand still. It's a quality of restraint and meditation and inaction when confronting temptation. What's the temptation? The oppression. You know, he does not engage the oppressiveness quickly. He allows himself to come to realizations, and then his 22.5 is directness. As soon as the realization is there, the man is direct. And what helps him with all that directness? The slicer. They both have the slicer. They both can slice and dice what needs to get sliced and diced. Powerful Wa channels that are designed to work in organizational structures that rule them. Donald Trump's a natural born ruler, but Ron DeSantis is also, he's a natural born leader in this way, if he's elected and he so feels mutative to do so. Donald Trump's naturally born at it. Ron DeSantis sort of had to grow into it, but if he feels called, if he is so projected upon, if he generates a response that says we're doing this, then he is designed to become incredibly consequential. 1222 is a design of becoming suddenly of consequence, a stranger of consequence in the moment. So that means, as a stranger of consequence, Ron DeSantis could just sort of fly in at the last minute, run for president, potentially win. He might be planning on doing that. I mean, that might be his plan. It's like, I'm going to wait for the last minute and see if I really need to, whatever. So this gate 22, this directness, it's disregard. Yep, the disregard of form when required. Think about what that's saying. Disregard of form. So, hey, we need to have a polite form here. We need to have this form. We need you in this format with as it relates to how you will be graceful. He's graceful in that way, the grace to listen. So he listens well at his press conferences. He doesn't interrupt the person right away until the slicer comes out. And that directness comes out, and he disregards that graceful nature because he knows when to do it. He disregards, and it's conscious. He knows when to do it. So he puts up with it, he puts out, and then he cuts its head off. And then he goes right back to putting up with it and putting up with it because, nope, that's what grace demands.
That makes so much sense to me.
Yeah, it's a beautiful line. I'll read it for you real quick.
I know that all too well.
You do, Jennifer. You have the same channel. The power inherent in higher, this is all about higher principles, by the way. The power inherent in higher principles to successfully transgress behavioral codes. Basically, I got to step out of it. You want me to be this? Your behavioral code for me is this. You want me to fall into a box this way? No can do. I transgress that. I'm over it. I move beyond it directly as a general, as a fifth line, as a heretic. If you challenge me, out comes the slicer, out comes my generated response, my ability to say yes and hop into the experience, my love of myself of all things, and this beautiful channel of ideas and curiosity that's constantly keeping him as an experiential being. So sometimes he's a little bit excited about what does all that feel like? And I'll take it, because that's the human experience, and that's what he'll end up doing. He can't help it, and he'll do it strategically. So the possibility through emotional awareness to behave individualistically in social situations. Now, these are all potentials. It doesn't mean people with this channel always live out these potentials, or people with that line and those gates will live that out. So I've watched Ron DeSantis, a whole bunch of him. I see him living out much of that. Again, caveat, what goes on in these people's home lives, how that not self-ego presents itself amongst his brothers and sisters at family gatherings with his wife, you know what I'm saying? Pillow to all this stuff. We don't know. We know that an undefined ego puts a chip on the shoulder of those with it, wondering if they're worthy, if they're good enough, if they should have, what should they have done more? Do I need to prove it? He seems to have found his way around. Do I need to prove it? He seems to have found his way around it. And when you have an open ego and you don't need to prove it, and you end up going about the business of proving it. It's not because you proved it. It's because you were empowered. And he's got an individual channel. All you need is one, and you're empowered. You are empowered to empower yourself. You're definitely, empowerment becomes your theme. So it's partly there in his incarnation cross, that empowerment. It's very much there. 2 gates are in it. One other thing I wanted to get to was his moon. We went to Donald's moon before, and Donald's Pluto. So let me go to the Plutos first, just really quick. So 2 different Plutos for him. His truth, again, in a 5th line. By the way, just like Donald, his truth completely harmonizes with his profile. These 2 men are very self-contained, powerful units. As long as they're living out their nature to some degree. So 48 says, I am a well. I am the well of logical things that can be solutions. This is the general, 5th line, the general with the well of solutions in an open center. So it's got to get called out of him. And it's got to be in combination with other forces. But suddenly his realizations draw from a deep well of solutions he's grown over the years. And then on the other side, the penetrating awareness to do something with that in a foundational way. 57.1, the foundation of what is penetrating awareness from the intuition of humanity. It is humanity's survival gate. 57, because you have 57.
I have in my Pluto, both sides, and I think it's in the 4th line, I believe.
So that's externalizing what your intuition is. You're always doing that now.
Yeah, I'm always doing that.
Oh God, I love it when I get surprised by a line. I try never to read all the lines of people I know and stuff because I like to forget. And then when I discover them in moments like this, it's such a joy. It's so delightful.
Always talking about that.
Yeah, isn't that great? So 57.1 demands that he has this immediate intuitive awareness. It gets hit. And as long as he's acting on it, as long as he's allowing it to go in and build up this well of solutions, which are what he's designed to do, it's a logical process, then all of his crazy, awesome ideas, whatever they are, can flag around, and the oppression will finally leave when the grace to what it is he is both the saint and the direct speaker of what is the scoop. There's no detriment in his sun. There's no detriment to it. There's no planet and polarities. That means you can count on that. That's how this man will live that thing out. It's not too shabby. And then when I go to 49.5, if 22.5 said... is
it 49 or 48? It's 48.5.
No, I'm moving to his moons.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yep. So if gate 22, which we dealt with a moment ago, was the principles, higher principles that successfully transgress behaviors as needed. Hey, you need me to behave this way? No. I'm an individual. I'm unique. I'm mutative. In a pulse, I'm empowered to generate a response that says no to what you've asked me to be. He can transgress that. It's no longer graceful for a moment, and then back to grace. Higher principles, it says. When I get to 49.5, you're going to love this. 49 says it is the gate of principles, the gate of revolution, transformation of forms based on the highest principles and not simply for power. And the 5th line is organization, practical provisions for the needs of others in revolutionary times, which ensures support and continued understanding, a potential sensitivity to the practical needs of others. You get my vote.
And that's exactly what's happening.
That's exactly what he's got, a practical sensitivity, because so 49, he's driven by 49. It's in his moon. 49 is off the solar plex, pointing down at the root. It's in the stream of emotional awareness that is tribal. So we know it's keynoted with sensitivity to support things. It's in a defined center, so it's always working. And so that sensitivity of his to support others in times of revolution where practical things need to be practical. So practical provisions in revolutionary times. That's how that adds up. Ron DeSantis, dude, you can't help it. It drips out of you and you're driven to be there. If ever you find yourself doubting something because that open head pressure comes in and too many things went through, when you find yourself frustrated, that's all okay, because you'll keep snapping back to this natural position that says, I have the grace as a saint to deliver practical provisions during revolutionary times, which we're certainly in. And I will come to the right realization that does that. I'll have the penetrating awareness that makes the truth. I'll have the solutions when they're needed and they're called out of me as a projection from others and as a generated response. And if all else fails, I'll cut its head off. Don't worry. I'll slice it and dice it. And don't you worry. Those practical provisions in revolutionary times have led him to have the type of cabinet that doesn't leak. They don't leak stuff. No one's leaked out of his. There's been no disloyalty inside of his camp that I'm aware of. Maybe there's probably some and campy politics inside of things. I can't speak for the minor items. Major items, I can pretty much speak for. I have not heard anything leaking like a sieve out of his administration. So when you put these two together, they would be an incredibly potent debate. And the person with the open ego would have an advantage because he's got nothing to prove. And then the person with the defined ego, if he's got all the right details, has an advantage because he can prove it. So you see what I'm saying? Either way, I wish these two got along, because actually the natural combination would be Ron DeSantis as a vice president and let Donald Trump do his last 4 years, because he can't do any more after that. And then Ron DeSantis would roll into 8 more years of it. And I'm sorry, 12 years should be enough time to clean up this mess. Mm-hmm. It provided the government even lasts that long, because we're about to bankrupt it. And as soon as more state nationals come online, there may not be a United States corporate government anymore. We might actually get our de jure government back in the next few years. We just don't know.
It'll, even without the state national, it's going.
Yep.
So inevitable. State nationals or not, or anything like that. Again, there's a lot of cosmic shifts. The United States had its Pluto return. Rome fell in its Pluto return.
Yep, we're in the middle of a falling.
Going to impact a lot. There are cosmic changes happening on our planet that we have not seen in our lifetime over 200 years. So it's not going to wait for any of these stage players down here. Is not concerned with any of that.
I feel like one of the luckiest guys on the planet, to tell you the truth. I grew up charmed. I grew up during a time when it was, dude, we had abundant everything. It was straight up abundance all the way through, even through the 2000s, essentially. I started to see the lack mentality show up in the 2000s severely, and now we're in it, and I get to live through the incredible transition of these times. So I feel blessed in all of that. Nervous a little bit, but blessed.
I am too. I do feel very blessed, and it's amazing time. So yeah, guys, that was awesome. Thank you so much, Dan.
Yeah, I think it was great. I want to say something about these two men. They're both great men. They have the potential to be great men. They both have showed up as being great men. Either one of them are worthy of a vote, and I hope they don't tear each other down, because they both have these amazing qualities that are suited specifically for leadership. So, bam.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, you know what to do. Make sure that you like and subscribe to the show if you haven't already. If you haven't already booked your session, please do so. Dan is doing couple sessions, single sections,
kids
sessions, kid sessions, friend sessions, whatever, anything as it pertains to human design. So make sure you take advantage of that.
Take advantage of that, and don't forget what I said at the beginning. Get down to the bottom and open up the link, and you'll see there's a spot to make a donation if you can't afford the $250 for the 2 hours that I give you. And then just one last thing, I think it still says on there that there's a follow-up inside that $250. We have to take that down. We'll have follow-ups. Actually, we just negotiate that ourselves between us. So anyhow, there's follow-up because I do it anyways. That's why I need to take it down, because people follow up with their texts and their questions all over the place. So that's what I'm finding. But your session, it's going to be good.
All right, guys. We will see you on Sunday.
Over and out.
Okay.